has begun.
All right. Thank you, Cher, for setting it up. Hi, everybody. Hi, Adam.
Hi.
And a whole lot of us. So for official purposes, because we just got to do a roll call, right? We have Chrissy
Yes.
and myself and Cher, who helped us out setting it up, but she just had to quickly step away for a second. So I don't think this should take too long, unless there are questions or anything that you want to discuss. But the two things that are here we're here for is for the policies that we have, um, which I can name, um, and also the proposed 2020 annual budget. That would be for us to recommend it to the board for approval in the next meeting. So if you remember, we actually already built the 2021 proposed budget. And this is basically the exact numbers for that from what we worked on for the 5-year budget. We're basically taking those numbers and saying that's what we're gonna adopt for the budget coming next year. So we just have to vote on it and say, do we agree on it?
Yes. Do you need a resolution?
Yes. So we have to, I guess we have to say if we are in favor, yay or nay.
So this is for the 1-year budget?
This is for the 2021.
Right. So you guys can just all say, you know, who's in favor of recommending to the full board the 1-year budget, because you're not, you know, you're just, all you're doing is recommending to the board the 1-year budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I suggest we recommend to the board the 1-year budget from the 5-year budget that we had previously proposed.
And I agree with that and I second that. I also would recommend it.
And Marlon, I recommend it as well. Sorry, my cell phone was on mute, but yes, I also recommend referring the 1-year budget to the board as constituted presently.
So then we could just go into the policies. Did we get a chance to look at the investment policy? I'm just gonna read out the names of the policies that are up for discussion here. Investment policy, policies governing the use of authority discretionary fund, procurement policy, property acquisition policy, property disposition policy, recapture policy, strategic financial assistance policy, uniform criteria for evaluation of projects policy, and uniform tax inception policy. Sorry for my accent, that's exception. Sometimes it creeps.
So I would just make, if we're going to deal with them as a group, 2 comments per, which is sort of the same comment that we made last year, per our, I believe it's our investment policy. We have to, let me just make sure it's in the, yes, the investment policy section, diversification. We have to submit an RFQ for our deposits every 2 years. So that's something that we should look at. Hold on. Sorry.
It's okay.
I see these are the hazards of working from home, COVID. Zoom calls, my animals are holding me hostage for treats. And the second recommendation, the second comment I would make is regarding the UTEP policy. we have it in this current form, which I believe we have to advise on, but we are also, as a board and a subcommittee, looking at revising our UTEP policy to be more consistent with all of our other strategic policies. And I don't know how that works, Cher, but so we approve this one, and then we revise it and approve the next one after it's been revised.
That's my thought, because really if these were normal times, we could have had the UTEP policy ready right now for approval. Unfortunately, it's not the case. So my thought is that, yeah, I haven't been able to speak to our council yet, but my thought is that it stays, I would, leave it as is, because a full-on change is happening to the whole policy. So, yeah. Unless, you want to take out the language that says that we don't do.
So can we approve all of these other policies? And I mean, because we're not approving them, we're just making a recommendation to the board. So can we say that we are in agreement with the language of all of these other policies, and the UTEP policy, we understand as a board, is under review, and that once we get to the board, we can get our attorney's suggestion as to if we have to approve it in its current form and then revise it, or if we can leave it open and revise it. And
well, all of the policies have to be approved by the board by our December board meeting. So I'd rather wrap it up with a bow. I'd rather you all wrap it up with a bow, and not leave that hanging. And then once, because Bob will be at our December board meeting. So if you'll recommend to review the UTEP in its current form, pending advice from council regarding the language in the beginning that says that, we don't do UTEP policies, that's how I would do it. But eventually it's going to get all changed anyway, but something has to be approved. So yeah, I mean, does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else need me to clarify it a little bit, or you got
Well,
it?
when the
if-
changes are, when are decisions supposed to be happening again?
Decisions for the UTEP or
Yeah.
for the policies in general?
For the policies in general.
So yeah, they should all be approved by, by December 31st. But in our case, right, we're having our board meeting December 14th. So unless, you don't want to call an emergency meeting or a special meeting for no reason. So really, this should all be done by the December board meeting.
well, I think as far as our meeting tonight, we can, Winston, we can recommend.
Mhm. So maybe I can ask a question. Just make sure I understand. So tonight we can make the recommendation to send these policies as they are written to the board for consideration Monday, the 14th. That's not to say we will vote to approve the policy as it is written, because we'd go to the meeting, Bob would be in attendance, and then we could, in theory, make adjustments to that policy in our December 14th meeting while we're there. So we could literally recommend this in its current state to go for consideration for a vote. Then when we look at it, I mean, technically we could vote it down, right, as a board. Or if Bob is attending, like you said, we could, I guess, change it on the fly in the meeting, right? Is that
Correct.
what we want to maybe do, Christy?
Correct. We know
We
the
might want to
issue
adjust
is
it to be in
that
alignment with a greater policy. Is that what
Yeah.
we're doing?
you all
Okay.
know, we know that the issue is, the biggest issue with the current policy as is the language that says that we don't do, pilots. So you can have, Bob explain it in a better way, is how the entire board should agree upon fixing that one line just to carry us over until we get to the following year.
Okay, so can we, I would then suggest that we approve all of these policies for recommendation to the board. And upon our discussion with the board and council, we will see if they have any changes that they recommend. Otherwise, as a board, we recommend these ones.
Okay. I agree with the way
Yes.
Christie framed it up. Yeah, I
Right.
agree that we should bring these forth to the meeting on the 14th for consideration and vote. And then with the understanding that council will be present and we could make, adjustments as desired or appropriate.
Right. Sounds right.
They just have to go, I think you should just read off, maybe read them off one more time, and then I think we're good to go.
You have the list, Marlon, of
I can read it off if that's quicker.
All right. So
Yeah.
the policies that we've been discussing are the investment policy, the policies governing the use of authority discretionary funds, procurement policy, property acquisition policy, property disposition policy, recapture policy, strategic financial assistance policy, uniform criteria for evaluation of projects policy, and the uniform tax exempt policy. So,
Fair enough.
I agree.
I agree.
all right. Thank you for
All right.
clarifying.
So that's pretty much it. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, if I hear from Bob regarding the UTEP and any other clarification before the board meeting, I'll let you know. Other than
Fair
that,
enough.
pretty much it. So